Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of the Business to Business podcast here at Leicester Tigers. It's a showcase of our regular interviews with Tigers partners in order to find out more about the business themselves, what makes them tick and how they operate culturally and another. And today we're joined by Lee Tebbatt, Managing Director of Club Partner Wilo. And on behalf of the club, we're really honoured for you to join us, Lee, and thank you for being here today to talk a bit more about your business.
Thank you, Mark. You're welcome. It's good to be here. Good to be here.
Before we talk about Wilo, we're really interested in almost finding out about your journey, Lee. How, I wouldn't call it elevator pitches, but, if you have to share almost your route to where you started and where you sit today and how you came about it and went through that process as such.
Not overly complicated, to be honest. I mean, what I would say is to start with, I didn't really have so much of an idea what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. I enjoyed engineering. I enjoyed hands-on. I've always been a pretty competitive person and wanted to do well. Ended up doing an apprenticeship, which are obviously far more popular nowadays than perhaps they have been. And it was a route that suited me very well, studying both at university as well as working hands-on within an organisation. And that gave me a good background. I studied engineering and moved into sort of sales engineer, project engineer roles. Then more into sales management roles, finding that it always helps if you can talk to somebody about a subject that you understand a little bit. So it helped me to kind of, with an engineering background, explain things properly to people within a sales English type role. Sorry?
In English.
In English, yeah, almost sort of an engineer to engineer, or in a way that people could cut through the sales speak, so to speak. And so that sort of grew, and then more into sort of general sales management, business development roles, more than into general management roles. Been a previous managing director for another organisation and business development director, and then actually found myself keeping close to Wilo as an organisation over the years, because you tend to find friends and people that you like chatting with, and you network throughout the industry, and kept in touch with Wilo. And then the opportunity to come back to Wilo in the managing director role came up just under 4 years ago. I had worked here in the past, so I knew the business quite well. I saw it as a great opportunity. And now in my role, I'm responsible for Wilo UK and the Wilo Ireland business and reporting to the group board. So yeah, much more general management now, but I found that understanding the product and the people and growing through the business was a good way of development for me.
Good point. You noted that you weren't there before as such. Very few people will return to probably a place. Well, that might be more common than we think now, but very few people you'd say would return. How is there a challenge attached to going back to a place where, I'm guessing you knew a lot of people beforehand and in a different role, and how easy was that decision to make or factored in as part of that process?
I think it's a good point, because I had to sort of have a word with myself to make sure that I didn't come back with any preconceived ideas, because there were some people still in the business, although it was a number of years between being here. There are a number of people still in the business, and there are a number of new people, and businesses evolve, cultures evolve. And I had a positive but a preconceived perception of Wilo, which was part of the reason of me being interested in coming back. But equally, I needed to not rely on that. I needed to test that and really kind of reinforce what the business was in my own mind when I came back. So I spent sort of the first 90 days, amongst other things, was very much understanding what are we trying to be, what's our progress, what's our ambition, the vision, the mission, the strategy, all that sort of thing. And really talking to the people again to find out what type of business we are now. Some of it had changed. Some of it had changed for the good and significantly, and some of it hadn't changed for the good. So it was important to check that. You're right. It was important not to come back with an expectation of what it would be. So yeah.
In terms of kind of the value, you talk about strategy, and values are normally closely aligned to those. What are your values as a person, and how do you implement that in the business that you're now in charge of and kind of managing downwards as such?
I think, managing downwards as a style and a phrase isn't something that, and I know you say it as in relation to probably the position that I'm in, but I like to work within my team and like to have quite a close team. We're all experts at the things that we're experts in, but no one's an expert in everything. You need good people around you, and you need to understand each other and your skills and strengths and weaknesses to make that work. So working with people, understanding people is really important. And I think, working with people in a respectful way, in an open and honest way. I like to challenge people as to what they expect and what they can deliver. I expect to be challenged as well, because we're not always right and you need to be challenged back. But one thing that I've sort of spent a bit of time reflecting on over my career and have had a bit of sort of coaching and support on is really kind of being an authentic leader. So coming across as someone that is genuinely interested in the business, in people, in the way forward, in understanding what the issues are and what the opportunities are. And actually, if you get out of bed with an interest in that, being an authentic leader isn't a difficult thing, but you can come across as a leader that, the door's shut, you need to make an appointment, you need to be very formal, you need to be very structured. And there can be a time for that, but more often, and what suits me is being more authentic, more involved, more conversations in the kitchen than perhaps in the meeting room, if that makes sense, to find out how the business is going. So yeah, I think authentic leadership is a big part of my style and the culture that I appreciate. Yeah.
And when you talk culture, obviously you work for a large business that's headquartered out of Germany as such. The cultures of the business, are they driven from head office, or do you have the autonomy to build it in the UK and manage it your way, or is there quite a strict line of this is how we're going to behave across the business from a uniform point of view, or otherwise?
I think, and this isn't avoiding the question, it's a bit of both, because Wilo last year, as in 2022, celebrated being 150 years old. It's been around for a long time. We've grown, we've evolved massively over that time. And you don't evolve as a strong brand and a strong business without real sort of solid center and ethics and values and processes. But equally, that one size will not fit all in the four corners of the world that we now operate. The culture in the East is different to the culture in Europe, is different to the culture in the West, is different to the culture in South America, is different to the culture in India. So you have to have a sort of a backbone. And yes, we have a way of working and reporting, and that certainly as senior managers, we understand and we need to work within. And it's important that you get that culture, because that's part of the DNA, if you like, of the business. But equally, my role is taking that sort of group DNA and relating that to a UK and Ireland DNA, because our culture is different in the UK. We have a different style. We communicate differently. We respond differently. And that in itself can sometimes mean that, we don't always understand where each other's coming from. But yeah, it's important to get a balance, I think.
And balance might be something where you're going. For me to work, if I want to work for Wilo UK, what are the three, I wouldn't say non-negotiables, but what do I need to have in me to be an employee that you would look at from a recruitment point of view, or as a manager that works underneath you, Lee?
So being self-motivated is really important. Wanting to get out of bed to get something done is an incredibly important start. We've all got to find our own drive. We've all got our own lives away from work. Everyone has their challenges, or know people around them that have got their challenges. And through any point in life, those things, go up and down. But being naturally self-motivated to do something, make a difference, to improve something, to learn, are really important things. They're what I look for. They're what I think that's what is it within me. I'm naturally quite an energetic and ambitious person. My kids are similar. Bless them. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing for them, but they're very similar. And I look for that. Yeah. But I think that's important to see in people, that they have that energy and that drive. I think being open and honest as well. We've got to work with each other. We spend a lot of time discussing, and as I said earlier on, being open and honest and being able to challenge people, give feedback, take feedback is important. No one's more important or too precious. So we're quite flat in the way that we communicate as an organisation. So being able to fit in that environment is important. And a bit like Tigers, and my background is also in sport, and we're ambitious. We want to do well. So I want people that want to win. whether that's winning in business, winning in solution delivery, winning in making a difference or solving a problem. I want people that have that desire to win. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And yeah, so when the art of winning, the sport of winning, where I think it's you enjoy the journey, but the win is at the end of it. Such and in terms of kind of your mission for that with your Wilo hat on, what does success look like in 3-5 years for you personally and the business here in the UK?
I joined the business, say, a little under 4 years ago in this role. Wilo has been moderately successful in the UK. I say we're probably sort of number 2 in the industry, and in the UK, in different parts around the world, we are the market leader, but in the UK we sit around sort of number 2, and we're good at what we do. But what does success look like is I really want us to differentiate ourselves more. As a pump manufacturer, we can be seen as a company that make pumps. Obviously, we want to be more than that. We want to make more of a difference than making green pumps and you see them on the shelves in various wholesalers and DIY stores. But we want to make a difference. And for example, and it sounds a little bit like the elevator speech, but to put that into context, 10% of the world's energy is consumed by pumps. And never has there been more of a challenging time around energy consumption, energy costs, energy shortage. And if we can develop products, services, systems that are efficient, that are reliable, we can make a big difference. And being able to deliver sustainable, clean water to millions of people around the world is something that is important to us. So, without taking that too high in the sky, in the UK, we want to deliver more of that. We want to grow our position. We want to demonstrate our brand, what we can offer that goes beyond the product. The product is key, but it's more than that. And that's where I want to take this business and to develop the business and the people within the business. So yeah, I think that if we get there in a period of time, it's been challenging over the past couple of years, as we know, with COVID and other things, supply chain challenges, but we've still made some good progress. And I want to accelerate that progress now. Hopefully, we're going to have a more period of more normal, should we say? Yeah,
we can but dream, can't we? But I mean, part of that, Lee, is and you're very passionate, and I can feel it. And actually, through our partnership, we help tell that story, don't we? We've spoken about that before, about having the means to do it. And obviously, you're a business, you're not necessarily in the UK, but over in Germany, that has that history of a sports investment and a sports partnership from that bit. What was the single most important thing that you consider as a business when selecting a sports partnership, or is it that story piece that we've chatted about before?
What makes it? I mean, I think the key is in the word partnership, because we could, and it's often a word that's overused, in industry and all sorts of industries. But I think, if as Wilo we wanted to just promote our name somewhere, there's lots of ways of doing that. There's lots of ways of spending some money to put your name somewhere that hopefully more people see. It's more than that within a good partnership. And when looking for a good partner, as we believe we've found with Leicester Tigers, and we're very pleased with how things are progressing, we wanted to see and we wanted to recognise the same sort of levels of ambition, the same sort of values, the same sort of approach to things like sustainability. Sustainability in sport sounds a little bit strange. Why are we talking about energy and saving money or being efficient within sport? But actually, being able to influence a few tens of thousands of fans with a few messages could make a huge difference. And working together on key messages with the same sort of value base makes for a good partnership. And that's one thing that struck me with the conversations with yourselves, is early on, before we'd even decided what type of agreement or package or commitment we would have to each other, we spent time really understanding what Wilo is trying to achieve, what Tigers are able to do, what they're trying to achieve, and where it fitted. And that impressed me. We haven't had that in that same way with other people we've spoken to in the UK. So that was an impressive thing, and that was something that made a difference for us.
Very kind words, and unprompted, and
yes, unprompted.
Definitely good to hear. And we're passionate about finding, the right people that are going to be either in the trenches or on the podium with you, I suppose, is where we're all heading. So, we really appreciate those sort of words. And I think you touched on a bit, and you might be covering off the same question here, but when you look at advertising, marketing as a brand, what does sport give you that traditional methods don't, be it Tigers or otherwise, really? You're a keen sportsman, so it's an easy question to kind of throw at you as such off piece. But yeah, I'd be keen to kind of know where you see the difference between sport and that traditional method that a lot of people are still doing.
I think one of the main differences between traditional methods and sport is the emotion that you get with sport. People are motivated in some way when they consider sport. Either they want to win, or it's because their dad always supported a team, or their mums lived somewhere where they've always got a connection. But whatever it is, there's nearly always an emotional reason that people are involved with sport, follow sport, and want to see and get an emotional feedback from that experience. And I think if you can couple a positive statement and a positive message, and you can put your brand alongside something that gives people a positive emotional feedback through sport, it's a great combination, and it tends to it ticks various boxes within us and becomes a more memorable experience. From our point as well, we find it very easy when we go speaking to our clients, or even our staff, and we say, look, we're going to be going to one of the Tigers games, which is such and such a game. It might be home, it might be away. Would you like to come and join us? We don't struggle to find people that want to come to the game. Whether it be businessmen, businesswomen, families with their children. We don't struggle with that, and that's also really good for us, because we want a broad demographic, and we want that sort of inclusivity in that way. So yeah, I think the emotion, the inclusivity, and the fact that you can attach those positive feelings to the brand, not just seeing it, in a cold sort of normal environment, really.
Yeah, brilliant. And one thing that always, we talk about in sport a lot, and certainly the older you get, is around that legacy piece. And I'd be keen to find out, it's 20 years down the line, and you're looking back on your career. If you're doing better than me, it might be 10, what have you. What do you want your legacy to be, other than the guy that did a very successful partnership with Leicester Tigers, and what have you? Have you even thought about that side of your life as such?
In honestly, not a lot. You hope that your legacy, if your legacy lives on in any way, I think firstly, as a parent, you want your legacy to live on through your children. So you want your children to be your legacy. You want them to reflect the values, the aspiration, the achievements that you wish for them. So first and foremost, if I had a legacy, it would be that it lived through my children. I think from a business point of view, I think that it's look what we did together, look what we could achieve, look how we managed through challenges, COVID, for example, look how we developed a plan, look how we worked together, look how as a group of people we've achieved. It's good to be achieving as an individual, but it's also much nicer to be achieving as a team. And again, coming back to the sport connection, and not deliberately doing this, but as
don't mind.
as you win together, you enjoy it more, and it's much better to win together and to learn together than it is on your own. So I think if there's a legacy around business, it's about achieving together, learning together, and developing people that look back and go, yeah, really enjoyed working in that team, and we got a lot from it, and we achieved a lot. Yeah,
lovely answer. Last question for you then, Lee. One, and it could be professional or personal, in terms of your career, purely successful. I'd imagine you read a fair few books or been on a fair few courses that contain books and such. For someone looking at you and your role and wanting to be there whenever that may be, what's the kind of the one book you'd recommend, either them reading or a book that has inspired you within your career, to that stuck with you throughout, that you would pass on to someone else?
Good question, and one that's probably more tricky for me, because I'll hands up. I'm not a big reader. I like podcasts. I love discussion. I love workshops. Been on quite a few courses, but I'm not a huge reader. I've read books clearly, but I'm not someone that, this month I have read. But one book that stands out for me, and one that I learned quite a lot from and kind of made me think about my style is a book called Turn the Ship Around. And it's about a previous US Navy captain, and he was on submarine ships, and the traditional military approach is very linear with authority. You make a decision at the top and it is driven from top to bottom, and it's about you do as you're told, and for all the reasons that makes a lot of sense in a lot of situations. But he challenged that in the way that he said it's far more valuable to train and develop people to be able to make decisions themselves when they need to. So he used the example of there's a problem in the engine room. The call comes from the engineer up to whoever on the deck, that then comes to somebody else on the deck, that then comes to him and says, we've got a problem with engine drive 1, it's overheating, we need to do this, what shall I do? And his response is, he's not an engineer, he's not standing next to that, he doesn't understand that engine or that motor anywhere near as well as the engineer that's standing in front of it. He's not he's not living and breathing that engine room in the same way as that engineer is. The best person to make that decision is the engineer. So you train and you support and you empower people in a framework to make the right decisions. Most of the time they will, and they'll probably make them better and quicker than you will. So it's not just driving the decision from the top to the bottom. It's given a framework and a culture for people to feel that they can make decisions when they need to within their parameter. And I found it a really interesting book, because a lot of people going through sort of more normal sort of management development or middle management and upwards are thinking, I need to make a decision, I need to intervene, I need to take control, I need to tell somebody what we need to do here. Yes, sometimes, but more often not, you need to facilitate someone to make that decision, or to work, or to solve that problem, or to come up with the answer. And so turn the Ship Around by a guy called David. I wrote it down, David Marquette. So yeah, that would be a book that I would recommend.
Oh, brilliant. I lied, it's not the last question, because you just pointed me another one. And and again, things like that I find fascinating, and you've got to be relatively comfortable with things like that around actually what if that person fails as a result of that empowerment piece. So as a bonus question for those that are kind of watching and listening to this, how do you frame that within your management style, and how do you how do you monitor it without feeling the need to get involved and what have you? Because that goes back to that culture piece, doesn't it, really?
So I think, again, it's about helping people to realize that we can't all be good at everything. So you need to rely, you need to encourage and support and trust people that if it's their area of expertise, they're there for a reason, and you respect and take their input. Yes, of course, sometimes there are times when decisions need to be made, and sometimes they need to come to people, myself, and we need to make a decision. But often, one of the biggest challenges is people feeling they need to make a decision, but not quite sure what the outcome will be. Will it work? Will it be right? What if we don't? What if we do? Now, no matter what role you're in, no one has all the answers. And if I've learned one thing within more senior roles, it's been you need to learn to be a little bit more tolerant of ambiguity. So trust that if you make enough of the right decisions often enough, and you're working on it together, you'll get through. But we don't always know the outcome. We don't always know where it's going to go. We don't always know exactly what the pitfall might be. But if you're making enough of the right decisions on enough of the occasions, a little bit of ambiguity keeps us on our toes, keeps us focused on the right things, but it keeps us moving forward. There's stories of businesses failing for not making decisions as opposed to making the wrong decisions. So, what I mean is more businesses fail for not making a decision as opposed to making the wrong one. It's important that you allow people to kind of take that on and move it forward, really. So.
Brilliant. No, Lee, and for us, again, thank you for giving up your time. We certainly found a lot more about Wilo as a business and you as a human being and and director of a very big company. So again, fascinating. Appreciate your time and look forward to seeing more of you. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mark. Take care. Thank you.